Okay, so I'm going to do some more families and just go through solid modelling a bit more. So the stair that I've got here, I know it's a pretty ordinary stair in some ways, but I'm going to try to retain it just so that I've got something to work around as an example. And so I want to have a screen though that that cordons that off from the other area there. And I'm going to try to make it something that will still be a feature and visible from the front. So a nice big thing coming through here. And to start setting that out, I'm going to use a reference plane and draw it through the centre line there, or just starting there. It's pretty arbitrary. And then what's that beeping? He's got someone's doing payments, are they? That's all right. So again, I'm just going to bring that across at the angle I want so that it doesn't interfere with my other objects too much. And something like this. Again, it's really just an example of modelling in different planes. That's really what I want to look at, as well as just solid modelling in general a bit more. So the reference plane there is going to be something I'm using a lot to draw on. So I just want to remind you, when you have something like that, it helps if you name it. So you might remember this from the very beginning. Selecting a plane and then giving it a name in properties is a really useful thing to do in Revit. And so I'm going to call this screen. It's fine. And going into the sub-menu on the component and then model in place, I can start modelling. But also, I'm just thinking ahead, I've got to have a view that looks at this plane. And so another really useful trick in Revit is to draw a section outside of the family. And so using the section tool there, I'm going to snap to that plane. Another really good trick I've worked out. Snap it onto the reference plane that you're drawing, drawing against, or drawing parallel to, or perpendicular to. And so I'm looking basically in the same direction as that plane. Just going to use the arrow keys to nudge that down so that it's looking towards it rather than sitting right on it. And I might just get I'm going to move that unit over later anyway, so for now I'm going to simply select it, and I was going to hide it. No, so I'm just thinking on the fly here, I'll move that out of the way. Yep, that's fine. Okay, so I'll tie it to the mass again later, that's fine. So with the section view, I can look directly at the objects that I'm going to model. And so then going back to my plan view, I'm going to use model in place and set it to walls. And then the name, I'll call it screen wall. And now I'll double click on that arrow to go back to the section view, and I'm just going to draw some pretty arbitrary shapes here. I'm sure you've seen this sort of thing in a lot of designs these days. So having clicked on extrusion, you'll see then it's going to ask me for a plane, and this is what will happen in any project where you start drawing perpendicular to the ground plane. And there you can see in my list of planes I can choose the name I've just given to the reference plane, screen. So I'm drawing on that plane. And as I was saying, I'm just going to draw some pretty arbitrary shapes here. So trying to get the whole diagonal thing happening. So I'm just going to take it up to my my truss line here. And so I'm just going to do some crossed sort of shapes. So you can take your time and make this look a bit better than I am, but again, just to give you the basic idea and go over a lot of the modelling tools again. It's really the point of this. Okay, something like that. And so I want to give these things a bit of thickness now. Using offset, I'll just put in a distance there. I'm going to make them pretty chunky, so let's say about 400 or 500. Don't want to make them all the same, but something like that. So it's choosing a few there, and then let's go to about 600 actually. So I need a few more down the bottom. Okay, so something like that. I'm just going to get a few more copied across now. Okay, so just a line to cap it off at the top, and okay, pick lines now and just make it a bit easier to pick these. Well, it doesn't always let you when you're working in a different plane to the object itself. So back to drawing lines, I can get something along the edge of the wall there. That's close enough. Yep, okay, so trimming. So I'm just turning all of this now into a set of closed shapes, and that's going to involve a lot of trimming and extending. So you do have to think a bit about how you're going to split these elements up and join them together. Don't try and think too far ahead, because you can get yourself into trouble. So just, you know, split and trim them as you go. Fortunately, Revit's not the best at this, so it does take a bit of time. Revit 2015, they've improved it a little bit, but it's still nowhere near as quick as in AutoCAD, where this would just be a few clicks. There, okay, more splitting. So when you've got a confusing shape like this, it really does help to just do things as you go. See there, I've confused myself. What's going on? There we are. Yep, I don't mind that. And let's go and do some more splitting. Sorry, don't want to do that one. So back to split again. I've lost a line that I need, have I? Yes. Okay, so let's just tidy these up. And split more. It's a real shame Revit just doesn't make this stuff easy. That one was alright. This, I need to get my line back. Alright, so I probably shouldn't have gone quite so complicated. I just wanted to show you something interesting. And, well, actually, that one can just go. And you do see these forms a lot these days. It's almost as big as some of the you know, yellow and similar colour schemes that are around. And again, lost a line that I want to add, so I'll put that back in. Yeah, oh, this is just modelling directly. And so massing's great to save save time in some situations, but here it's really easy just to model it. Again, see that side's done, and let's go and move over to this side. So it's just all split and trim here. And you do get into a bit of a routine once you do this for a while. So almost done. Got to get another line in. And it's going to tell me I've got overlapping lines. I know. Shake that back up. Okay, so back to splitting. Oh no, it's going to be split. So that's all the interior lines, and then joining to the top and the bottom. Again, a whole lot of splitting and trimming. Here it's a bit simpler, just at the interior points of all of these closed areas. I can make a split. Yeah, I think that's all I need. So trimming, lots of fun. Oops, no. Some of the Revit developers just try to be too clever, and it really gets in the way sometimes. Yes, unjoin, I think. Unjoin, yes. Okay, so I've got what should be a closed shape, or a series of closed shapes at the bottom. Actually, I've still got to do the top, of course. and it is nearly done. Okay, another line and it should be finished. There we go. Okay, so that will work as an extrusion. Fingers crossed when I hit the tick. Okay, now I've left an extra line there, but Revit's pretty good at working this out for you, so don't be worried when you see this dialog box after you've done a lot of drawing like I have. First thing to try is show, and it will show in orange the area or the object it thinks is causing the problem. Usually it gets it right, so once that's found the object, the orange one there, you can hit continue and you've got a chance to fix it up. I've just got an extra line there, I'm pretty sure, so I'll delete it. Now, like I said, it usually picks up the right thing, but in this case it hasn't. I'll undo that. It's got to be one of the lines connected to this one. So I'm going to use a trick there and select with a crossing all of the lines in that area. Now it looks like I've just selected 3, but you can see in the properties it's coming up with 4. So looking here, there's only one line there. At the bottom, there we are. No, the bottom's okay, so it's the top. There we are. So there are 2 lines there, and there should only be 1. So I'll delete 1, and there we are. So tick to finish, and it's made. Brilliant. Alright, so I'm going to change the depth. I'm going to make the extrusion end 300. Well, this will be a pretty chunky thing. And now in my 3D view, there it is. It'll look a lot better in perspective as well. So I'm going to, just before I go too far, I've done a lot of work there, so I'm going to finish the model. And then just remind you, when you do work in families, it's important to get out of the family to save the file. It won't let you save in sketch mode. So I'm going to save it now, and then I can go back and do more to it. So with the perspective view in that interior there, I'm going to use a camera view to obviously make that. I'll look down through this area and you'll start to see something interesting. Might just hide that floor for now, and we can start to see maybe how this would render and give us some interesting effects when we start to look at this. Okay, so with the lighting and everything else, that will be, a fairly interesting object to work with. So again, just hide the ceiling for now. I'm going to change that later anyway. Okay, so that's one approach, thinking differently about the planes that you use. That's really what I was trying to demonstrate there, and how you can often have very simple forms, but with an interesting plane setup, they can become more interesting forms. And then the other thing I want to show you is how you can combine sometimes even more basic geometry, thinking about how voids and solids work together. So I'll do that down here with another model in place. And again, I'm going to use walls as the category. I'll call this angled walls. Okay, so I'm going to do this time a blend. So with a blend, starting in the plan view, I'm just going to do some diagonal sorts of lines. So this is a sort of lip-skinned approach with sort of these deconstructed shapes. Yeah, actually I want that to even be smaller. So I'm just going to nudge these lines up using the arrow keys. They'll stay connected. So let's see, something like that. Yeah. And then I'm going to go to Edit Top and draw another triangle. Okay, so that'll give me a tapering form. I'm going to set the height there to roughly the height of my ceiling, about 3 meters. Tick to finish. And then in my section view, I can check that height, and I'm going to stretch that up so that it does touch my ceiling. So that's already going to give me something sort of interesting. If I look in the perspective view, just in the camera going through here, I'll just stretch the field of view out there to show you the form a bit more fully. Okay, so already an interesting form, but if you start then thinking about how that can be combined with some voids, back in the plan view, I might want to be projecting at an angle. So I'm going to go to finish the model using the same approach I just showed you. I'm going to draw a reference plane, again outside of the family. You can do them in the family if you like, but I've just found when you have them outside of the family, it's easy to access them when you're working with other things, and so and that can be helpful. So I'm going to just draw at the angle I want to work in. Again, select it, give it a name. I'm going to call this, void plane, something like that. Going and back to make a section, I'll just again use that trick of snapping to the reference plane and then nudging it away. And then looking in the section, now I can go to again select that family, that blend that I made, which is the whole family at the moment, edit in place, and then go to make a void extrusion. That's all I want. And I can choose now my new reference plane, void plane. Okay, and I'm just going to draw some rough shapes here. Let's do one to begin with. And here I'm going to change the depth already, so I'm going to make that about 2 meters. Finish. Looking in one of my 3D views, you can see how it's going to intersect with that, and again give us something maybe that would be impossible to make just with one solid. And maybe just give you an idea how you can create complex, interesting forms like I have. So going into that perspective view, you can see now we've got again something else interesting happening, and you can experiment with those approaches to get sometimes the different results you might want for the forms you're after. Notice in perspective, a lot of things are greyed out, even a lot of the viewing tools and definitely the family editing tools are all greyed out. So the trick there to get out of this family is to just go to any other non-perspective view. So all of these views here, 3D view 1 to 10, they're all perspectives. But in any other 3D view or a plan, you can then finish the model. Sometimes it's then easier to go back to the perspective and keep adjusting. So just think about how you can get to the forms that you need, and look at those solid modelling tools. They are really versatile, so you don't always have to use massive modelling to get complex forms. And so obviously using model in place you can do that. Don't forget that you have the option of making separate family files, and for standalone elements, particularly the joinery units, which you're going to be doing a lot of work on later, that is an approach to think about, and I'll obviously go further with that with you later as well. So I just wanted to make sure you're comfortable with those things, and or have at least thought about them again. So I'll finish that there.